So thank you. And Zana.
Yes. No, I have to start. I'm deeply humbled by, it's by daily sacrifices and courage and real resilience. So, on the background of that, I feel like I'm really I shouldn't even be part of this discussion because I mean the difficulties we've had are nothing in comparison, But I'll try to add my 2 cents to this discussion still. So yes. As Kata told, my professional life have always been divided in 2 parts. There's business and then there's arts. Business part is mostly Arda, and Arda is leading employer branding and HR consultancy in Latvia, and we have 2 related startups, which is UpMatch, which focuses on, it's an app that is focusing on reskilling and upskilling, which we find one of the biggest threats and worries us for the future. And the other one, which is Finada, which is a recruiting company that we actually launched together with Ukrainian colleagues, shortly after. That is business part, and then the arts part is I have for 13 years Kim Contemporary Arts Center, and then Riga Jurmal Music Festival, which music festival that took place in real life for 2 years and 1 year that we missed, but has sadly been put on hold for unknown time. For reasons I will explain later as well. But then if we look at the business side, and of course I can't speak of all Latvian companies. There are companies in logistics and productions whose markets were Russia and Ukraine and have been affected, of course, very directly. Most of our clients, and we have roughly 20 in retail, in IT, in insurance, in banking, so quite representative sample, but most of them are fairly focused on Baltic, let's say, market, and their business operations were not impacted directly, but of course, the first weeks after the 24th, especially for HR departments, a lot of focus were on employees. Again, we cannot compare the shock and with the Ukrainian nation and troubles, but similarly to the beginning of the COVID, people were shocked, angry, lost. The war in Europe, 21st century, and HR departments were working a lot on trying to instill some kind of sense of stability or a plan to calm down people. And then shortly after, it moved into different kind of activities helping refugees. That's what also Arda did after the first 24 hours, where we literally had to tell everyone, let's try to keep calm, take time off, be with your family, whatever is needed, business doesn't matter in these days. Right after, we moved into thinking of what we can do as a company to help refugees in the situation, and as a result of that, we actually started together with Latvian Export Association and Helve, a joint project by creating a portal for jobs for Ukrainian refugees. It was clear that there will be more and more of them, and we could help by helping them to connect with Latvian companies. At that time, National Employment Agency has already sent out a survey asking who are interested or not, but for many reasons, Latvian Employment Agency didn't have basically they're legally not allowed to have information in any other language than Latvian. So you can imagine the usefulness of job ads in Latvian. So we jointly decided, and we have been working with Latvian Employment Agency for years now, that there needs to be additional initiative, and it's been very successful. Around 450 actually companies sign up in willingness, and of course it's both to help, but also companies have been lacking employees for years, so it's also a win for them, I would like to say. So that's that, but the real effects, of course, on businesses will be seen later, third quarter, and it's the inflation, in all energy sector, food sector, production companies. We're working with one big one, and now they still run on reserves of the raw materials they bought previously. Well, that will end, and so I think starting from September, we'll see real effects, and they will be very damaging. If we're talking about business and economics, there'll be additional push for salaries. Already for last year, we've seen the raise in salaries of around 12% already because of supply and demand and lack of skills and workforce. There will be additional push for employers to compensate the results of inflation. So it will be rough for businesses, and we believe that unfortunately some of them will go bankrupt, and we'll see what happens with employment in that respect. In connection to that, and speaking a little bit about Apmatch, then find other. What we are worried on the level of kind of business or economics is that we see that many things are put on hold right now, and investments we see as well, attraction of talent, and there have been little. But we work, for example, with other IT companies in Latvia with global business services. And they have worked hard to attract international IT specialists from India, for example. And once the war broke out, they said, listen, we have visa, but we're not going to move to Latvia. Your region is too risky. And I think Nadia is completely right. One way of helping is by believing the region, by investing, by doing business, by attracting the talent, by creating jobs, because ultimately, it doesn't work without them, and that's the part. Yes, as I told, I'm worried as well in HR perspective, which is my field. That we see that many HR related efforts, reskillings, upskilling, everything that is deemed to be nice to have is set, for later. We have to prepare. Winter is coming, and it's a time bomb in a different way. Yes, and FineData as well is an interesting story in that relation, because we have actually planned for 2 years now to launch a different kind of recruiting company that would be mostly digital and focusing on local market and exclusively. And once the war broke out, we saw that it's unethical to start a new business. It's how can you start a business when people are dying? And it was actually our colleague Anastasia from Ukraine saying, no, you have to. This is the time to start the business. This is the time to offer people job. A job gives structure to life. And that's how we decided. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead, because we have put it on hold, and we thought it's not a good time. So yes, that's the part that has to do with the business. But again, this is nothing in comparison. And yeah, when it comes to the arts, it's a different situation. Contemporary art world, and when it comes to the Kim, we have seen, of course, as well. It all boils down to specific people. It's like I think. Organizations in Latvia were, equally shocked, and again, after first day, pretty much on Monday, we started debating how what can be done. And Kim as well started a fundraising campaign to artists donated works. Kim sold them, and together we raised not for our size of organization, substantial sum of money. And we see the same for the Baltic organization. Yet, if you go to Venice Biennial, the biggest event of the arts, you'll see little or no war, and that is slightly troubling. Okay, you can understand that most of the expositions have been planned, at least a year ago, and this is just results, and the preparation work started, yeah. But still, it seems that it's kind of in a different reality, and so. Riga Jurmala Music Festival instead has, as I see it, has been a collateral damage of the soul. So Riga Jurmala Festival has been a very big project, inviting leading orchestras from whole world. It's of course a very costly enterprise or initiative, and
it's a classical music festival?
It's a classical music festival. The whole idea is 4 weekends, each anchored by one of the leading orchestras. And in this world, the time planning happens within 2 to 3 year range. So you invite Boston Symphony Orchestra 3 years ahead, and you hope that they will be tour, that it coincides with their tour in Europe. And in our case, we had invited Mariinsky and Valery Gergiev 3 years ago, and right as the festival. Right as we have had the most successful season so far, huge ticket sales, tons of group tickets bought by our international guests. Just on Saturday in Latvian television, where we were nominated for top event of the year, I was saying finally, much like Baib said, finally one normal summer.
Yeah.
It's very optimistic. None of us believed so. There were no plans B or C. We were going for best summer ever. And yes, right from the morning of the 24th, we understood that both for financial, moral, and reputational reasons, we will have to cancel and put festival on hold, because not only, of course, programming, but these were one of the first things that were brought up. So we got a lot of calls from journalists asking, so what about Valery Gergiev? Who unfortunately is, turns out, a loud supporter of regime. We also have supporters among our 23 supporters that were later included in sanction lists. So we understood that, yes, as I told, for financial, reputational, and moral reason, we would have to restructure, we would have to find other means of funding, and we would have to think of a new concept for the festival as well. It would have to be smaller, focusing more on region artists and so on and so forth. But all that requires time, and the first step for us was to take care of the artists. We have more than 450 to inform about it, and take care of our audience. So to inform more than 1,000 ticket buyers about doing that. So yes, but as I told, it's. What is important, I think, is peace, but not at any price. Putin has to be defeated, both military, but also ideologically, which I think will be harder. And yes, we help the most we can. My family has welcomed also a refugee family living with us from the second week of the war, and doing other things, but you must go on, and one of ways, and a good way of doing it, is by doing business and giving people jobs.
Thank you. I very much like the stories of, resilience and lack of, actually,
Yes.
and how it's all very much a
Yes.
moving sort